let's not worry about copying anything or anything like that. Let's just, like I said, let's just write some code. So if you would please, I take it you probably have IntelliJ IDEA already up, but if you don't, please bring it up. And once I get this up on here, we'll get going. So there's going to be quite. I'm not going to lie to you. There's going to be quite a bit for you to type on here. All right. If you decide as we're going through it, oh, there's a lot of that in the old program. Well, then you can go and copy. But I'm just going to type. So, all right. So we're going to create a new project. Same thing we've been doing. So next. All right. Again, depending on where you're putting yours, I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm just going to call this. It's going to be a stupid name, but I'm going to call it Payroll Java 1. All right. That's what I'm going to name the project. If we have time, we're going to do Payroll Java 1 and Payroll Java 2 today. All right. All right, that brings us here. You've seen all this before, so there's nothing new here. Again, as always, what I'd like you to do is in your source folder, first come in and do a new package. Again, I don't think I have to repeat on how to do this stuff. I think you're all bright enough that you can get that. So, and then inside of there, add a new class, Java class. Just call it payroll. Now, one of the things that's going to be different today is we're going to create another class later. We're not going to put a main in here. Okay, we're going to do all of our Java code in here, and then we're going to create a class that's called payroll driver in just a bit. And after we create the class that's called payroll driver, that's where we're going to put main. That's typically how it's done. All right. I'm not going to worry about where I position curly braces or anything else in here. All right. So first thing I'm going to do is declare. Declare and initialize the program constants. All right, and there will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. I'm not gonna go nuts with comments. All right, you don't have to either. I will say just so you hear this, okay? When you do your tests and stuff, I'm not that concerned with comments either. But when we get into the Android part of the class, and you're going in there and you're creating your own app, you all hear this, right? Part of your grade is going to be on how well you document it. Because if there's a problem with it, I want to be able to look at it, and you're going to know the app inside and out, up and down, but I won't. So part of your grade for that will be on documentation. We'll go over that at a later time. So I'm going to go and do it 6 private static final double variables. So I'm going to make 6 of these just to try to make it faster for myself. All right. Now I'm getting errors now because I haven't made the actual variables. That's 40. I'm going to say that the most a person's going to make, and again, this could change. I mean, you all know this, all right? But I'm just going to try to pick out a number that I think would be, makes sense. All right, so I'm going to put in here $250 an hour. And, no jokes. You can all say, oh, geez, I'd like to work there. So would I. All right? Is that big enough? Everybody can read it okay, correct? Andrew? Evan? That resonates okay? Good. All right. Then under that, I'm going to put in my program variables. All right. And we're going to have two strings. Whoops. That's not what I want. And last name. Do not give these initial values. Technically you can, but it's just considered bad practice to do that. Now the good news is when we do the second program, when you copy this in, you're going to have it 75 to 90% done. Did you hear that? You have tons of it done. Almost all of it, to be honest with you. Now, if you look up on the screen, my question to you, is there anything that's in here so far that anyone has any questions on? If you do ask, please. All right? It's funny because I was almost begging the class this morning, you know, and finally one guy, yeah, I just don't understand this. Good. And you could see other people were shaking their heads. You know, and it's the old thing where, you know, like somebody, I want to ask a question. I know this is stupid, but, you know, don't say stuff like that. It's not stupid. I think there's been once or twice when somebody's asked a question in all my years of teaching, I thought, well, that is stupid. But it's because it was just, you know, it was something like they were in an advanced class and they asked something that was, we went over right away in the beginning class. It's not that it was stupid, but they forgot about it, which I found a little bit amusing. That's all. The average was an 80. That was a written test. They have their hands on tomorrow. They did another written today. People weren't smiling. There's 13 people in the class. I had 1 F. I had 4 Ds, 4 Bs, 3 C or 3 A's. It was something like that. I don't think anybody got a C who took the test, even though that was the average. All right? No one got over like a 92. I don't know what more to do. It's the same thing I did with you guys, but the difference is last year I made you key in the stuff, but now I give them the actual written thing, and I let them keep it.
Isn't that like how we used to do it? Like, just do the study guide, and then they keep you over it the one day, and then like
yeah.
It's like the same thing, and then
yeah.
4 or 5. So
yes, that's exactly what we did. So, all right. Now, we're also going to have in here, we're going to have a couple class variables. So, does it make sense with these variables right there? I didn't put it in, but instead of program variables, I could have put in there instance variables. Does everybody get that? Can I have 5 heads shaking up and down? So this is for every person. It's going to have a first name, a last name, an hours worked, an hourly rate, and a gross pay. Does that make sense? All right. Just so we get some practice, though, I'm going to also declare and initialize some class variables. And again, this was not that it had to be done this way. I decided, and this is all stuff I made up. If something doesn't work, or if you think, man, this sucks, it's all on me. I didn't get it out of a book. I didn't get anything. I just did it. I sat down on one weekend and did a bunch of these. All right, so and again, I don't want to ever say anything where I'm demeaning you, but I want to make sure when you look at what's up here, all right, I think everybody knows this. It doesn't matter whether you say 0 or 0.0 or 0.00, etc. Does that make sense? 0, 0. Really doesn't matter. Most people, when they take a double like this and they initialize it, they say 0.0. Just so there's no doubt that there's a fractional component. That's the only reason I've done it this way. All right? And emp count will be just that. It'll be a count of all the employees that we have. All right? Next, I'm going to declare and initialize. So if you had problems the other day with this, you'll learn how to do it right now. A couple decimal format patterns. That's a pretty good, that'll be a pretty good number. There is a way to automatically, when this comes up like this, I thought it was Alt Enter, but it's not. I tried Control Enter, but there's a way to automatically have it come up. So the file that you need, but I'll just tell you what it is. Go back up to the top of your program, please, and import java.text.decimal format. All right. Please add this line at the top, and then those errors that are down there should go away. All right. I'm going to put some code in here, and then I'm going to put some comments underneath it that's going to have some more code. If that doesn't make sense, just let me add the stuff, and then I'll explain exactly what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. Does that make sense? All right. Okay. So you'll notice those errors went away now. Okay? Move this over a little. All right. So the next thing that I want to do, and again, because this is just me. People say, why do you do this? Why do you do this? Because I do. I can't give you a good reason a lot of times. But I like to put, I like to come in here and put like a comment area in here and do something like that. I just do it, like I said. All right. This will be our first constructor. And it will be a no arg constructor. And I even put an example. Now, when you look up on the screen, does it make sense to everybody? No arg means you're passing nothing in. All right. So if we create a brand new payroll object like this, if we say, for example, payroll Chloe equal new payroll, that's the constructor that's going to be called. That makes sense? And that also means that when we're creating it, we have to say public payroll, and it has to be like that. Does that make sense to everybody? It has to be like that. All right. We're going to have, what, 1, 2, 3 constructors. All right. So you'll get some chance doing all this. What I'm more concerned with is us typing this in, then us creating the driver, and yes, of course, I'm concerned with yours running, but what I'm going to do for you doing this is I'm going to give you a hard copy when we get done. All right. If you decide you want to change the names, because I used my family members. If you want Tom Brady and you want Bill Belichick, etc., I don't care. All right. I'm watching this series on Udemy on this class I'm taking right now, and this guy, that's all he keeps saying. I want you to do things in your own way. So if you don't like my variable names and you change yours, that's a good thing. Okay, that's whatever you say so. All right. So what I want to do first in here is I want to initialize each payroll object field, and I shouldn't say that, I should say each payroll instance field to a default value. Now, just so you know this, when I put this in right now, you're going to get errors up the wazoo. I'm going to show you how to fix them like that. I'm going to show you the hard way to fix them, then I'm going to show you the easy way to fix them. Everybody with me? All right. Big thing right here, right now, is we're going to call 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to call 4 different methods that don't exist yet. Does it make sense? That's why we get errors. All right. And if you look up on the screen here, we're going to call one for each one of these. So and actually we're going to write 8 of them. But that said, you won't have to write any of them. You'll click a button and they'll all get written for you. Now you'll have to put a little code inside, but all of them will be written for you. So we're about to write accessor methods for these, which means that we're going to write a set first name, a set last name, a set hours worked, and a set hourly rate. Then we're going to write a get first name, a get last name, a get hours worked, and a get hourly rate. We talked about these in earlier classes, but just to kind of remind you again, anytime you've got a get, it's like me saying, Tony, how you doing today? And he goes, I'm doing great. That's a get. I'm getting information from him. And I say, no, you're not. You feel like crap. That's a set. I don't really have the ability to do that to my knowledge. All right. But I suppose if he's leaving here and he walks into a wall, you know, then maybe he will feel like that. I don't know. All right. So we're going to create those. You can manually type them in, but you don't have to. So that's what I'm going to show you. All right. So we're going to start here with a call to something that's called set first name. And we're going to pass nothing in there. Okay? That means it's going to set the first name to an empty value. Does that make sense? If we don't want it set to an empty value, we could do something like this. Unknown FN. So the person's first name would be unknown FN. Does that make sense? So we can do it either way. It doesn't really matter, just so you're aware of that. Okay? All right. I'm just going to leave it as the empty string. Now, if we didn't want to do it that way, please look up on the screen. All right, please look up on the screen. I'm going to put this in as a comment. We could have said something like this. Notice when I type in this, the word this, and I type in a dot, should have given me something, but I could have said, because it's commented out, first name equals, and I could have done it like that. See what I'm saying? I could have said it in there directly. All right? But I'm forcing it, I'm calling set first name. So I'm making it happen. I'm taking total control right there by using a set method. A set method is known as a mutator. That means you are actually physically changing something. And again, I'm getting this red in here because it doesn't exist. All right, we'll make it exist in a minute. All right, since we've got a set first name, you might even have guessed this already, we're going to put in a set last name. So you can type if you want, or you can just copy the top one, paste it in, and change it from first to last. I don't care how you do it. Okay? Now, I showed you these comments here, but I'm going to take them out. Everybody cool with that? I just don't, I don't want, this is already several pages long. And this way we're able to cut down the size on it a little bit. Okay? All right. We've got 2 more. We've got to say this dot hours, or I'm sorry, we've got to set hours worked. Now notice, if I do this, please look up on the screen. I don't want to do that. Somebody tell me why. Because it's not a string. Hours worked is a double, if you remember from up here, and so is hourly rate, which we're going to do next. So these two are going to be both 0.0. All right. and then finally hourly rate. The convention when you do these, please look up on the screen, is, notice how I did this? That's how we make variables, right? Camel casing, lowercase f, etc. But since you're putting the word set in front of them, you do it like this. So that first thing becomes capitalized. All right? Just so you hear that. So that's the first one. All right. Now, just to show you, we're gonna go in just a second. We're going to create another another constructor. But before we do, all right. So we're going to create another constructor. Oh, this is terrible. I think I brought. Okay, I left a page in the other room, but that's fine. I'll get it in a minute. One thing we want to do in here is, would you agree when we call this, we're creating a new employee? Would everybody agree with that? All right, so we want to say plus plus for our employee count. Did I call it employee count or emp count? I don't remember. We called it emp count. It's right there. Oops. So since we just created a new employee, we're going to add one to emp count. Does that make sense to everybody? Again, I'm trying not to take anything for granted here. All right. Now, I want to show you this. We have to write 2 more constructors, but before we do, I want to show you. I could come in here myself now. Literally, I could come in here and start writing these things. Don't do this. I could write in, for example, public string, get first name. All right, and I could come in and put some code in there. Don't do this, because we're going to have it done for us automatically. And then I could come in here, and I could say, so I would have to return something. So return this. All right, that's stupid, but I could do that. All right. Then I'm going to come in here and do a set method. All right. So this is the kind we have. We've got a set first name, we've got a set last name, etc., etc. All right? So I could come in there if I wanted to, and I could type in public void set first name. Please look on the screen. Notice as soon as I do this, and I put that in, all right? Well, I'm surprised that that should have actually gone away, that coloring, but it didn't. So I could come in there and do that. Point is, if I don't have to, I don't want to. All right? So I'm going to remove that I just put in there because I told you not to type it in. I want all these created for me. I want a set first name, a set last name, a get first name, a get last name, a set hours worked, a get hours worked, a set hourly rate, and a get hourly rate. You with me? That's what I want. All right. Now I have to remember how to do it. Because I didn't look before class. All right. We'll find it because I know it's in here. Let's take it for this. Is it code? All right. Code and generate. So go to code and generate. Thank you. And then it says, what do you want? We want getters, and then we'll want setters. So which do you want these for? Well, we want first name, hold down on the shift key, we want last name, we want hours worked, we want hourly rate. Those are the only ones. Those are the only 4 variables in this program we will be getting and setting. Everybody hear that? All right. So click OK. And look. There's your gets rather. Then let's do it again. All right. So the same kind of thing. Code, generate. This time you'll choose setter. In fact, I think we could have chose setter and getter. You could have done them both. You could have highlighted both of them. I didn't, but that's fine. All right. So yeah, there is getter and setter right there. That's what I should have done. Let's do it the right way. All right. I'm going to you can leave yours there. It's okay. But I'm going to come in here and I'm going to do a code, generate, and I'm going to click getter and setter. For what? For hold down on the shift key first, hold down on the shift key, first name, last name, hours worked, and hourly rate. Boom. 8 methods are automatically generated for me. All right? These methods only have a single line in them. Everybody hear me? So if we want to do any validation, we have to add that. Does that make sense to everyone? Also, look on the screen, please. Notice that by default, it gives it the same name as the actual instance variable. So we need the this qualifier that we talked about yesterday or the day before. If you don't like that, you can go in and I could just change that to FN, for example. You can do that. It doesn't hurt anything to do that. All right? So notice all my errors, and yours hopefully too, all went away now up above because those methods exist. Does what I just told you make sense? All right. So go back up to here. It's convention that you put all of your constructors for a class at the top. Did you hear me? I will expect that you will do the same. So if you have a no arg, typically that goes in there first. It's the first constructor. But I'm going to create another one now, which isn't going to be a no arg. So in other words, I'm about to overload the constructor. So this will be constructor number 2. And I'm going to call this name only constructor. Now, if this confuses you, and hopefully it doesn't, but if this confuses you, look at it this way. All right? I bring 2 people in for an interview. Everybody with me? I bring 2 people in for a job interview. And I'm going to hire them both. So first I bring in Andrew. All right? But Andrew comes in, and for whatever reason, when he comes in, I don't ask him his first name or his last name. I have no idea how much money he's going to make per hour and how many hours he's going to work a week. Then Andrew will be called via this constructor. I'll have to provide all that information at that time. Along with Andrew, I'm also going to hire Tony. And with Tony, I know his first name and I know his last name, but I don't know how much money he's going to make per hour, and I don't know how many hours he's going to work. All right? So for this particular example that you see right here, it'll be new payroll, and it'll be something like this. Do you understand the difference between this constructor here on my line 47 and this constructor here on my line 32? Does that make sense to everyone? All right? No information known, some information known. All right? How I got that, but I screwed that up somehow. That's why I'm getting the errors. Okay. So with my second constructor that's here, all right, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say string, first name, string, last name. All right. And this will be set first name to first name. Set last name to last name. Set hours worked. In fact, the rest of it I can just copy from up above. So that's the second constructor. Again, I'm asking, because I'm ignorant of this, does all of that make sense to everyone? If it doesn't, you've got to ask. And if it doesn't, if it's like it sort of does, well then wait till we keep going and we start adding code, especially in our driver. it may make a lot more sense then. Now, I want to show you this. You do not have to put this in. Feel free to put it in if you want to, but you do not have to put this in. All right? And that is this. I'm going to put some more comments up here. All right? And I'm going to start it with a slash star star. All right? See that? I put in slash star star. Anybody remember from yesterday what these are called? No. It's an annotation. You're right in that it's the format of a multi-line comment, but it starts with a slash star star instead of a slash star. These are annotations. All right? So I'm just going to put these in here. Notice it automatically started filling in stuff for me. All right? Whoops. So I'm going to come in here and say that's the employee first name. And this one is the employee last name. The program doesn't work any better because you put in these simplistic annotations. Did everybody hear that? It works no better, or worse for that matter. It may take a little longer because they're comments. So it may take a little longer for the program to compile. All right? Now, we're going to have one more constructor, and in that one more constructor, we're going to pass in everything. Everybody hear me? We're passing in everything. So I'm going to go and grab the one we just did here. I'm going to take all of that, and I'm going to copy it to the clipboard, and I'm just going to paste it in. So I'm taking that constructor we just put here, all right, and I'm pasting it in. Notice it's giving me an error because we already have that constructor. So I've got to come in here and say double hours worked, double hourly rate. All right. Now we can go and add these too if we want to. Add param hours worked. And that's the employee hours worked. And do the same thing with the hourly rate. So now I'm passing in everything. Previously I only passed in two things, but again, now I'm passing in everything. All right? So there they are. So now when I pass this stuff, instead of giving in default values, which is what those are, I can put in hours worked, and I can put in hourly rate. Great. Bless you. Now, I got a question for you. Look on the screen, please. Would you agree that for these constructors, we typed them in. We didn't do any generate thing. Would you agree with that? If it's easier for you, we don't have to, true or false, we don't have to use these names, do we? If you'd rather use FN, LN, HW, HR, change them. It's totally fine. All right, I'll have to change these annotations here, but you can do that. All right? So now I have written my three constructors. So we started out with our package. We imported the decimal format. We added our program constants. We added our instance variables. We added some class variables. We added this decimal formatter, actually a couple of them. We did number one constructor with nothing passed in. So we're going to default an employee that we create with nothing passed in to empty string first name, empty string last name, 0 hours worked, 0 hourly rate, and we added 1 to our employee count. Then we created a second constructor which had the name only, meaning we knew the first name and the last name. All right? So we set the first name to whatever we passed in. We set the last name to whatever we passed in. Since we don't yet know the hours worked or the hourly rate, we're defaulting those to 0, and again, we're adding 1 to our employee count. Finally, we had a third constructor in here, which was not a name only. So this was constructor number 3, all right? And I'll just put in here all info passed in. You can put in anything you want there, all right? So this would be for a third employee. So I might say here, for example, $40 and $25. I'm just making those up. All right. So we've got all 4 of those put in. Underneath that now, always put your accessors, all right, your get methods and your set methods, always put those underneath the stuff we've already done, okay? Don't put them above the constructors. Just don't do it. And if you say, well, is there a reason for that? Yeah, you don't do it. That's the reason. All right. So now in here, again, I've got my get, my set, my get, my set, my get, my set, and my get, my set. Now, please look up on the screen. It may not sound like a big thing. Everybody's different in the way they code, not just in the way they are. Some people like all of their getters first, then their setters. Some people like a get and then it's set, another get, then it's set. See what I'm saying? If you want all your gets first, then you wanted to come in and do a code, generate, and just choose getters. Then you can come in and do your code, generate, and just choose your setters. By choosing getter and setter like I did, we got both of them. Does that make sense to everybody? All right. The good news is we got a lot of this done already. You may not seem like it, but we got a boatload of it already done. All right. Now, for right now, we'll change this in the next one. We're not going to do any validation. Everybody hear me? We're not going to do any validation. We'll add this to the next version of this that we do. But for now, I want to get this first version done and have everybody run it and have it work for everybody, have you see it in action and say, I kind of get what's going on here. Then we'll go back and we'll add the validation. All right, so like I said, in the next version. So I'm not worried about it right now. I'm really and truly not. All right, so if you noticed, we had 4 things. We already talked about this. We had these 4, correct? Everybody agree with that? We've got a get and a set for all 4 of those. So what about that guy? All right. That's the one thing that could conceivably change every week. All right. I mean, if you have a different number of hours worked or a different hourly rate or whatever, okay, and I can't give you a good reason for what I'm about to say, except that's the way people do it. Normally, for the thing that you're trying to calculate in the program, like gross pay, you give it a getter, but you don't give it a setter. Did everybody hear what I said? And what the getter does is it figures out, as soon as you call it, it actually does the calculation. All right, I didn't mention this, but I want to, so please look up on the screen here. Do you notice something about these? Every get method, all right, every get method has no parameters, but it returns something, so it has to have a return type. All right, every setter has something passed in, but it doesn't return anything, so its type is void. Now, that's a rule that holds true about 99% of the time, if not more. So again, I want you to know this. Get functions have nothing passed in, but they return something because they're a getter. Set functions have something passed in, but they don't return anything because they're a setter. All right? All right, let's just go in here and we will write the get method for our gross pay. All right, then we'll take a break. So I'm down to the bottom here. I'm going to type in public. It's going to be a double, and it's going to be called get gross pay. I don't remember how did we say gross pay as 2 words? I think we did. No, yeah, it'll be like that. So get gross pay. Oops. Get gross pay. All right. All right. Now we will do a little bit of data validation in here. In other words, let's provide for overtime. Everybody with me? We'll provide for overtime. All right, so if somebody tell me in English, please. Look at this line of code. I'm up to line 124 already. Somebody tell me in line 124, this line, in English, simply, what's happening there? Yeah. In other words, you don't have any overtime coming. Would you agree with that? All right. So if that's the case, gross pay is equal to get hours worked times get hourly rate. Does that make sense? Do you notice what's different in here? That rather than plunking in values to say gross pay equals hours worked times hourly rate, we're using the get functions. That's object-oriented programming in a nutshell. All right, you do a boatload of that stuff. All right, else, meaning, as Tony, to go on from what Tony said, meaning they have overtime coming, right? Now, I might have too many parens in here for your liking, and if you don't like it, you can change it, but this is the way I wrote it. I was going to say it was giving me stuff in red, so I didn't know if I had any errors, but I didn't think I did. Now go ahead and type that in. But in this case, if you look up on the screen, let's say that I make 10 bucks an hour. All right? So let's say my hourly rate is 10, and I work 40 hours. 40 is less than or equal to 40. I know that makes sense. So it'll be just 40 times 10, or in other words, 400. All right? Now, my friend worked 50 hours and also makes 10 bucks an hour. All right? So with them, I've got to get their hourly rate, which is 10, and multiply that by this. Get hourly rate 10 by max non-OT. That's 40, so that's $400. Then I have to add to that the hours worked, which was 50, minus 40, which is 10, times the hourly rate, which is 10, times the OT rate, 1.5, which is going to give me 150, which means they made 550. You've done this kind of thing before. This shouldn't be a surprise. The big difference is we're calling, bless you, we're calling get methods instead of plunk it in values. But other than that, this is all stuff that you've done before. Right? Does the calculation, and is everything we've done so far, calculation-wise especially, does it make sense? Now, if you notice in here, it's giving me an error right there. You may or may not have known this. Notice this. Why? Because I'm supposed to return a double. Well, I don't want to return yet. Don't you remember I'm doing total gross pay? So, not YOI, put your fingers on the right keys. Total gross pay plus equals gross pay. Then I can return gross pay. That's the whole shebang, so to speak. I mean, that's a lot. I threw a lot at you in the first hour. There's still an error? Let's see that. Oh, that's because it shouldn't be inside of the else. That's on me. Thank you. Right code, just in the wrong place. So they should go here. Oh, jeez Louise. Take this line right there. Cut it. Move it up a line. Paste it. There we go. Now there's no error. Thank you. Is there anything in this routine that doesn't make sense to anybody? Anything? And again, the reason that you do it like this, the reason that we're actually doing the calculation in the get routine is that's forcing you to do the most up-to-date calculation with the most up-to-date numbers you have. All right? So I'll tell you what, let's take a break. Let's come back at 1:45, and maybe we will go in, maybe we will put in the in our set routines, maybe we will put in the validation right now. It's not a lot of code. All right? And again, once we get done with this, the way this is going to change, just so you know, after we get done with this, we're going to make a copy of everything in our payroll program. And then we're going to change it so that it handles arrays. Because right now we're just going to hard code values in. But we'll change it so it handles arrays. Make sure you save, do a save all, get out of here, come back in 15 minutes, please.